Hi everybody. So this is what we have so far from our last video. Is we have a clicker here that we can click to increment up. We can buy an auto clicker, which actually increments for us, which is great, and we can kind of move on from there. We're going to start by doing a little bit of CSS today. We might spend the whole time on that, so styling, or we might go into actually unlocking features and showing how to display them. But for now, we're going to keep it at this. So under the index.html, we're going to do a style.css. In here, so make sure it was your style.css. Make sure that, see, I think we might have linked these in the beginning, but I just want to go over it one more time. Make sure that .css is your extension, because that's really what's important here, is that the extension is the same. Style is just the name of the file. You can name it whatever you want. I would recommend naming it style though, because the link here, we have our style sheet, and then the auto thing that it does is style.css. But to make sure that your CSS is linked, you're going to need this line right here. And the shortcut for that in VS Code is link : CSS, click tab, and you got the whole thing right there. And it'll automatically put style.css as the reference. So the href is the link. It's asking you like where the CSS is, and then the rel is the style sheet. So that's actually going to be like how it's related to the CSS document. So once we have that all together, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our style.css file and start off with just something simple. So we're going to do an asterisk and then 2 brackets. And that's going to start us off with like our first line of CSS, more or less. The asterisk is referencing the entire HTML document. So it's going to be the whole thing here is what the asterisk is referring to. And then the 2 brackets is just where we're going to write our CSS in between. So let's start off by just doing background : black, like that. So how this works in CSS is on the left is it's the property that we're changing, and then on the right is the method we're using to change it. So those are the basically 2 important things that you're doing with CSS, and across the whole board this is going to stay consistent. So when we go over to now, you can see the background's black. It looks horrible. We can't do anything with this really. But we could leave it as this and change everything else and just change it to white. So if we want to change our color, it's not text color. It's actually it's just color. This is something that's weird in the beginning that you might have a hard time getting used to, but color itself will give you the font color. So just white works. We'll go over like hex colors and RGB colors in a second, but for now you can just write the color name. We load the page up, and here we go. So now it's white. So if this is the style that you want to go for, this is perfectly fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down below that. Let's style our button a bit. So button is referencing the tag. So it's going to reference every single button tag that we have in our HTML. It's going to find like this button tag on 13, this button tag on 12. It's going to reference those and then change that the way that you want to change it with the same properties and methods that we went over before. So maybe we want to just change specifically the border of the button. So you do border white, and then you need to add a couple more properties for that, my bad. So it's 2 pixels solid white is our first example here. So there we go. Now we have like white outlines around our buttons. And then what you can see, so border here is going to be the property that we're changing, and then 2 pixels is the actual width of the button, and then solid is the type, so that's going to be like the type of outline, and then white is the color that's around it. So you have like 2 pixels solid white. So if we did 12 pixels, for example, you would end up with this. So it's like really thick around it. It looks pretty ridiculous, but that's what you end up with. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. We can change like solid to dashed, for example, and then if it's 2 pixels, so we can actually see it. Here we are. So you get a little like dashed background, not background, border around your buttons. It looks kind of terrible, but it is what it is. You get rid of dashed, you go to solid, and that's basically what you end up with. And then maybe you do padding 2 pixels, and that the pixels are basically on your screen. You have like a number of pixels across it. It's just a measurement. It's a unit of measurement that's specific to the computer pixels of your display. Okay, that really didn't add a lot of padding, so we should probably add more. Let's do 12. So what you can see is padding is inside spacing. So it's spacing inside of the buttons, and all the way around we'll get 5 pixels of spacing. So you get 5 pixels at the top, 5 pixels on the right, bottom, and left. If we do margin, for example, and you did 12 pixels, you could see that everything's offset now. So margin is 12 pixels on the outside of the buttons. Now margin and padding isn't exclusive to buttons. It works for everything. So it's how we can style our text and our like images around the page. It's how you can kind of move anything around where you want it to. So maybe you want to move the let's see, the H1s, right? So H1, do margin 10 pixels, and that's going to push it. Oh, sorry. It's going to push it over to the right slightly and down slightly. And I mean, we should probably exaggerate that a little bit so we can really see the effect. So if we do 100, you can see it's pushed over quite a bit, and now it's offset a lot. This isn't the best way to position things, but it's good for spacing. So if you need to space things out a little bit, just maybe make it look a certain way like this, that works perfectly fine. Other than that, those are really the main properties we're going to look at right now. We'll add a couple more for like buttons to make them look a little bit better, but we're not going to go too far into the CSS in this one. So we're just going to do some like light CSS styling. For the buttons, we can add quite a bit more. So let's do. We already have the border. The text color works. So maybe we want to add cursor pointer. And what that's going to do is when we mouse over it, we get the pointer now. So instead of getting the normal cursor that we get the actual pointer, so then it looks like we're hovering over the button specifically, and they're able to click on them. So it makes it like a clickable item. Next, we can add maybe a little bit of like transition to make it look better. So you can do button : hover. And that's what this is going to do, is it's going to say whenever you, the user, is hovering over the button, do this. So what we might want to do is we might want to make the background white and the text, the color of the text black. So here we are. So you can kind of see that you can change the color here when you hover over it. Now, I don't think this looks great because it just seems too rapid of a change when you're hovering over. So what I like to do is add a little transition time. So you can type transition in the original button, so not the hover, just the first one. You do transition all, which is saying like all types of animation. Not 2 seconds, it's a little long. 1.5 seconds, the S stands for seconds, and then ease in and out is what we're going to use. What ease in and out does is it allows us to go in here, ease in, and then ease out. So you see we have a nice little animation over our buttons now. And that's what we're going to do for our basic styles, so we're going to leave it at this. And then next time we're going to go into unlocking new types of like increments, and we're also going to probably go into a little more CSS. But that's it for now, and see you in the next video.